Have you ever opened up a company's financial report and just felt lost? Like you're trying to read a completely different language? Well, today, we're going to crack the code on one of the most revealing parts of that report, the liabilities. Let's dive in and figure out what a company's debts are really trying to tell us.
So, to get us started, I've got a little riddle for you. What on earth could a car loan and your Netflix subscription possibly have in common? I know, it sounds a little weird, but trust me on this. By the end of this, not only will you know the answer, but you'll see a whole new side to how companies work.
At the end of the day, all of this really comes down to one thing: a company's financial promises. And that's exactly what a liability is. It's just a promise a company has to pay someone back in the future, whether that's a bank, a supplier, or, yeah, even you, the customer.
Okay, so here's the more, accountancy way of saying it. A liability is a company's financial obligation, a debt that it owes to someone else. The key part is that it represents a future sacrifice. The company will have to give up something, usually cash or services, to make good on that promise and settle the score.
So you've got all these different promises, all these different debts. How do you even begin to make sense of them? Well, the crazy thing is, it all comes down to this one super simple rule, a rule that changes everything. And it's all about time, specifically a one-year dividing line.
Here it is. It's this simple. If a debt is due sometime within the next year, we call it a current liability. If it's due after 1 year, it's a non-current liability. That's it. That one little distinction is the key to unlocking this whole section of the financial statements. So let's start with the long-term stuff first.
All right, so we're starting on the far side of that one-year line. We're looking at non-current liabilities. These are the long-term obligations, and you know what? They tell you a story about a company's big, ambitious plans for the future, for growth and major investments.
Now, inside this long-term bucket, you're usually going to see three main players: good old-fashioned long-term loans, something kind of cool called deferred revenue, and deferred tax liabilities. Let's break each one down real quick.
First up, long-term loans. This one is probably what you immediately think of when you hear the word debt. It's just a loan that a company plans to pay back over many years, way more than one. You know, like when a company like Toyota takes out a big loan to build a new factory or invest in renewable energy. That's a long-term plan with a long-term loan to match.
Okay, next is deferred revenue, and I think this one's fascinating. This is money that a company already has in the bank, but it's for something they haven't done yet. So even though they have the cash, it's still a liability because it represents a promise they still need to fulfill. And this brings us right back to our riddle. When you pay for your annual Netflix subscription, you give them the cash today. But now, Netflix owes you a full year of shows. They haven't earned that money yet. So for them, your payment is a liability. It's deferred revenue until they deliver that service month by month. See? A car loan and Netflix.
And the last of the big three here is deferred tax liability. Now, this one can sound a little complicated, but the basic idea is pretty simple. It's basically a tax bill that the company knows is coming eventually. It's an IOU to the taxman that they get to pay later on down the road.
Okay, let's hop back across that one-year line. We are now in the world of current liabilities. These are all the debts that a company has to pay off within the next 12 months. This is all about the here and now, and it's where you look to see if a company is feeling any kind of financial pressure in the short term. And here's what's really interesting. These two categories, current and non-current, they're not totally separate. They're connected. In fact, a huge chunk of a company's current liabilities is often just the piece of a long-term loan that's due for payment this year. This chart shows it perfectly. So, imagine Toyota has a big loan, right? For almost $480,000 in total. That smaller slice, the $113,000, that's the current portion. That's the piece of the big loan they have to pay back this year. The much bigger slice is the non-current part, the piece that's due way down the line.
But wait, there's more. Besides that slice of long-term debt, there are a few other common short-term debts we've got to look at, and some of these might surprise you.
Let's talk about unclaimed dividends. This is literally money that the company is trying to give away to its owners, the shareholders. But for whatever reason, the shareholder just hasn't cashed the check yet. Yeah, I know. How does that even happen, right? But think about it. Someone gets a dividend check in the mail. They toss it on a desk and just forget about it. Well, the company can't just say finders keepers. They still owe that person the money, so it has to sit on their books as a liability.
Next up, accrued payables. Okay, it sounds like accounting jargon, but just think of it as the company's running tab for all its day-to-day bills. You know, you use electricity all month, but you only pay the bill at the end. Well, the company owes money for that power every single day it uses it. That's an accrued payable, an expense that's building up that they haven't paid yet.
And last but not least, we have advances from customers. This sounds a lot like that deferred revenue thing we talked about, and it's pretty much the short-term version. This is when you put a deposit down on a new car from Toyota. They get your cash, but now they owe you a car. It's a liability until they hand you the keys.
So, okay, we've torn apart all these different kinds of debts, from the long term to the short term. But why do you care? Why does any of this matter? Well, because when you learn to read a company's liabilities, it's like you're getting a direct look into its financial brain.
Understanding these debts tells you so much. It signals if the company is facing any immediate risk, like can it actually pay its bills this year? It reveals its whole long-term strategy for growth. It helps you guess how much cash they're going to need in the future. It even shows you how many promises they've made to their customers. Altogether, it's an incredibly powerful snapshot of a company's health.
At the end of the day, it's really like reading a chapter in the company's ongoing story. Every single one of these numbers tells you something about a promise that was made in the past and an obligation it has to meet in the future.
So now you have the tools. You can read this crucial chapter of any company's financial story. But here's the thing. Liabilities are only half of the equation, which makes me wonder if that's what the debts are saying. What kind of stories are the assets telling?